Oh, hello there. Yes. Well, don't know why. There's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather. Yeah, rioting weather as well, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, today, I just wanted to sort of think about our, well, far right, one might say. If you were a bad person, naturally. But anyway, let's go with that because it's reasonably descriptive. Political types and indeed political commentator types. One of the problems that they have, especially at the moment, is having rejected the leftist notion of identity politics, they find themselves stumbling over, well, what can best be described as identity politics. And for a group of people that allegedly know so much about how important their identity is, they seem a little bit confused and will often stumble over words which unfortunately makes them look a little bit racist, which obviously is not something that they want. And I just thought I'd give you some choice examples today. A couple of days ago there was a lovely friend of the channel, Connor Tomlinson, had a rather uncomfortable interview where basically a Labour MP accused him of, former Labour MP accused him of being a racist, effectively, which of course Connor isn't, because you couldn't possibly accuse Connor of being a racist, or indeed any of the Lotus Eaters. I mean, I know I do, I'm just saying you can't, okay? Anyway, we got this from a guy called Ralph Schulheimer, who, as far as I can make out, is a foreign gentleman, if I can put it as delicately as that, and he works at a private university in Vienna. Yeah, right, tell me about it, mate. Anyway, yeah, there's a rule of thumb that if anyone works for a private university, they're not going to be a woke Marxist. Anyway, he wrote this. My friend, Connor Tomlinson, understands something that most people intuitively, know, but no longer dare to say. Oh, yes, the thought police will get you for what you intuitively know. Being British is not determined by a passport or a birth certificate, but by values and behaviour. Okay, to pretend that Britishness is just a piece of paper would be ridiculous. Okay then, Ralph, but the problem I personally have, Ralph, is that I am British and I'm also English. Now, if you come over here to what we call Britain, one of the problems you'll find is that it's a very odd concept, because there is England and there's an awful lot of English people out there, people that are very proudly English, never quite sure what they're proud of, but they're definitely very proudly English. And then there are very proud Welsh and Scots and Northern Ireland types, or just generically Irish types, if you want to be less than picky about it. So if you talk to people about how they feel and how they identify, there isn't realistically a particular British type. We can't really pin that down. Sorry, because my experience of being an English bloke is going to be quite different, if you like, from what a Scots person, or indeed particularly an Irish person, would feel. Because when the British Empire was starting to come about and we first kind of grabbed bits around us, like Wales, quite a long time ago, Scotland, a bit more recently, and Ireland intermittently, but pretty recent as well, then those people's experience of what it was to be enforced to be British have given them a particular view of, for example, the British state, and indeed the English. Just to muddy the waters there. To pretend that Britishness is just a piece of paper would be ridiculous. Well, we have to have a legal definition, of course, don't we? But values and behaviour, and you have to then start thinking about British values, which of course all of these people will obviously go on about. But what exactly are they? Well, you can make up your own ones if you want to, but broadly speaking, the one that's used in schools, which I'm going to use for today and we can think about, is this one, that schools have to promote British values, part of the prevent strategy, and you can see in its own way the way that these kind of notions come into counter-terrorism and the sense of a national cohesion, one might say. But anyway, leaving that aside, okay, there are basically 5 of them, but they get scrunched into 4, a bit like the 10 Commandments. You know, there's only really 3, isn't there? But we spread them out a bit. Anyway, there's democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, mutual respect and tolerance for those with different faiths. Yes, and I thought today we'd just have a look at, for example, a number of people posting things up which seem to miss the mark on that a great deal in terms of those values and behaviour that Ralph finds so intriguing about us. It's odd that he doesn't have any problems with Connor's values and behaviour, which are often less than ideal. But let's go to one of Connor's other friends, shall we? There's Carl Benjamin here, who is retweeting a guy called Jim Ferguson, who says Brits in their cars are being attacked across Birmingham by armed Muslims, capital A, capital M. And Carl says, another day, another injustice in two-tier Keir's system of minority privilege over native oppression, which is an awful lot of words to basically say a bunch of people that aren't in the majority, okay? But you will notice the framing of this, okay, in terms of the language. You've got Brits in their cars being attacked across Birmingham, which is a very broad area, but anyway, by armed Muslims, right? So therefore, presumably, the armed Muslims can't be British. Is that right? And I guess if the Brits in their cars are being attacked by people, that will go into those kind of negative non-British values not being tolerant, I guess is what Carl is trying to say here, and I would probably agree with him. But you will notice the sort of basic dichotomy that we have here, in that you have British people and then you have Muslims, okay? I think British is demeaning something else here, but anyway, in particular, if we want to think about this, I mean, this one really sums it up in a way that only Turning Point can, because whoever does the Twitter account for Turning Point doesn't have a very good grasp of the nuances of English. Anyway, let's try working our way through this one, okay? Again, from yesterday. The government cares more about jailing the working class. Right? Keep that idea in your head. There's the working class, let's put them on one side, than they do about jailing the Southport attacker. Now, as far as we know about the Southport attacker, singular person, they didn't come from a very privileged background. They were British citizen, but they were indeed probably what would be called working class, even under any pretty much definition you want to use, even a new right one about the underclass, they would fall into that. Moving on, there's the soldier stabber, who was another guy who, as far as we can make out, is working class. The Hare Hills rioters, we will come on to them again, who, as far as I can make out, were working class. The Manchester Airport thugs, who, as far as I can make out, were working class. Armed gangs of Muslim Defence League goons, which would make a great film title if you think about it. I'd pay good money to go and see that. And now the armed Muslim Defence League goons are out. This time they mean it. Yeah. Anyway, yes, they're not working class, you notice, and violent leftists. There we are, who presumably are the people that sit in the road in the middle class, who aren't violent, except for when they are violent. Oh, I get confused. Anyway, again, you'll notice the problems around language here, because, of course, here, a bit like the British people in their cars earlier, the working class means white. Yeah? That's what it means. And if you want to have a little fun and a smile to yourself, you can visit the Daily Telegraph. I'll just finish up with this one. Okay, we get Isabel Oakeshott, who went to Hare Hills. And again, I'm going to point it out. I used to live in Hare Hills, okay? And, yeah, she actually went there and she spoke to somebody, okay? And I think all of those problems around language and what we mean about people and their identity are wrapped up neatly in what she says, as well as the whole sort of political problems there are with someone like Isabel and her view of why exactly it is that we are here. Anyway, she went to Hare Hills and noticed it wasn't very well off, and she doesn't actually sort of think about in her piece as to why it is that the people there look very impoverished. I'll tell her it's because they're very impoverished. Now, she was all great guns for a government that was going to, put all this new investment in the north, wasn't it? You remember, yeah, the Red Wall and everything. Yeah, all that levelling up. Didn't happen at all, did it? No, because the working class of all various types of colours have become impoverished. I think someone called Carl had something to say about that. No, not Benjamin. Yeah, have become impoverished, haven't they? By a great deal. A lot of people in this country at the bottom of the pile have seen their real earnings, their real income decrease by 20% according to figures released today. So anyway, Isabel went to Hare Hills, and as far as I can make out from what she said, was a little bit shocked by the poverty. But she didn't actually speak to anybody in Hare Hills that was involved in anything that went on in Hare Hills, as far as I can make out, apart from one woman who is white. I don't know if she's British or if she's working class, but anyway, in the piece, Isabel does hint very, very strongly that she's nicely middle class and therefore presumably was safe to ask questions of. Anyway, say, do read it for yourself, just in case I'm being a bit hyperbolic. Anyway, yeah, she went to see this woman and then left. That was it. Okay? Now, you could have a wander around Hare Hills, it's not dangerous. You could go into some shops, it's not dangerous. You could speak to people, it's not dangerous. But Isabel doesn't do that, because she's not interested in the people in Hare Hills. She's not, along with Connor Tomlinson in Real Terms and the Lotus Eaters and Turning Point, not interested in the working class or the British. They're interested in what they do for a living, which is basically working for very moneyed interests and using language in an appalling way to persuade you that other people that are working class somehow are a threat to you. Now, whenever I see this stuff about the Brits or the working class or concerned citizens, I just think to myself, why don't these people be honest about it? Let's say if it's a bloke in an Adidas hoodie who's white, they are a concerned citizen. And if it's a bloke in an Adidas hoodie who isn't white, they're a Muslim. There you go. I know that's a really simplistic thing, and I know that that would cause all sorts of problems and people would have a go at me, but it's no more simplistic than the rubbish that we're being given otherwise. Because, like I say, you can tell so much about these people, about the fact that they cannot use language to adequately describe the people they are trying to, because they don't know anything about them. They might well bang on about the elite metropolitan media types who don't know anybody, but they don't get on a bus and sit next to people. Yeah, I was on a bus yesterday for a very long period of time. Very, very multicultural existence. It wasn't a great deal of fun because it just took forever. But I wasn't threatened by anybody. And I'm pretty sure we were all British, and I'm pretty sure we were all working class. Just not in the way that these people mean. I won't be fearful of people I sit next to on a bus, because they aren't going to do me any harm. But this lot, like Isabel and her mates in certain political parties, and her mates in certain TV shows, and her mates on certain podcasts, do mean me harm, because they seek to impoverish me. And if I get uppity about that, then by God I'll be labelled as a violent leftist, won't I? Anyway, do have a lovely... where's the summer going? Thursday. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Enjoy.